Peter Smith. I'm the founding managing director of what was then the Chester Summer Festival, which evolved into the Chester Playhouse after it was purchased by Christopher Ondaatje. The theater had sat vacant and inactive for a number of years, and it seemed to me that it was a wasted resource. So I thought that we could do something there in the summertime to add to the activity of Race Week. There wasn't a whole lot of other stuff going on there in the summertime. So summer theater seemed like a natural fit for a place like Chester, which was easily accessible from Halifax. I was a school teacher, and I had become the self-appointed director of cultural activities at the high school, which meant that we did regular concerts and performances and things at the school, and I enjoyed that immensely. A few years earlier, I was on the board of Canadian Puppet Festivals, which was Leo and Dora's company, so I was familiar with the theater building and with the operation of a cultural enterprise like that. We realized that we had to create an entity if we were going to apply for any government funding. So that's where the Chester Theatre Council came from. And the idea was that this would not be a producing theater. We would not develop any shows, but would bring them in from elsewhere, from other companies after they had finished with them. One of the first people that I spoke to that took me seriously was Nancy Marshall. And I know she was mentioned in someone else's video. And she was fantastic. And actually, she produced the first show that we ever did at the Chester Summer Festival, which was Side by Side by Sondheim. For our initial season, we rented what was then the Leading Wind Theater from Leo and Dora Velleman. We actually ran the first season with a for sale sign on the front of the building. We had hoped at some point that there would be an acquisition. We had actually, through Admiral Pierce, who was a member of the Theatre Council, made a pitch to Christopher Ondaatje that he could acquire the building and turn it over to the community. I believe he purchased the building at the end of the first season and made it available at no charge to the Chester Theatre Council to run more seasons there. So ultimately he did turn it over to the Theatre Council. It has, I think, survived and thrived since then. So that was very edifying for me to see something that you started carry on and be successful 3 decades later is very helpful. There were stories at some point of the theater becoming apartments or condos or commercial space, which I thought would have been a travesty. It was a lovely little theater, and the Vellemans had done a good job restoring it when they first acquired it. It was not that we had to go in and renovate the place. It was pretty much a turnkey operation for the first season. There were some serious limitations, that there was virtually no space backstage at that end of the building at all. The operation of the festival was a whole different ballgame. We had to build the whole thing from the ground up. We actually printed physical tickets in those days, produce a marketing plan and decide how we were going to promote the thing. And I found out in the course of doing that we not only needed a liquor license, which I knew, but that we needed an amusement license, which I did not know. And it's like the old movie, if you build it, they will come. I mean, if you build it, then civil servants will be on your doorstep telling you what you have to have that you don't have yet. But people were very supportive. I know that in the first season, for example, we did not find companies that we could bring in to fill all weeks of the season. So I called my old friend John Dunsworth, and he said, "Oh, I can do something." And so he decided that he would produce the gin game. He could get David Renton, who was one of the leading actors in Nova Scotia, and Anna Cameron, who had quite a career with the CBC, and put that all together, and it was probably the hit of the first season. And John did several things for us in subsequent years. And we decided to create a summer theater school called, naturally, the Chester Summer Theater School. And we decided that we would audition kids so that we had the ones that really had some talent. I was lucky enough to be able to engage Jeanette White, who at that time was the director of education at Neptune Theater. And we sent letters out to all the schools in Lunenburg County asking if we could come to the school and audition interested students. I remember going to one school and we heard the announcement on the PA saying, "The people from Neptune Theater are here." So the fact that Jeanette was involved certainly opened some doors. And the kids were fantastic. I think it was the first year we did a show called How to Eat Like a Child. And it was children playing children. They didn't have to be miniature adults or anything like that. And it went really well. So they would rehearse for 2 weeks. And then the third week, they would put on the show as 1 week in the festival, which was great. I think we discovered some diamonds in the rough. And I can't cite particular examples, but I know some kids that were students in that summer theater school had gone on to professional careers. Some of them had no idea whatsoever of what live theater was like, and they learned a lot. I mean, at that age in particular, they ranged in age probably from, I don't know, I want to say 9 or 10 to 15 or 16. And yes, you could certainly see signs of development from kids who were involved in the program. I was there for 8 of the first 10 years of the summer festival. And some of the people that I met and worked with were really fantastic. I mentioned the late John Dunsworth already, and Nancy Marshall. We also produced a show with Don Heron and Catherine McKinnon. Gratien Gelina from Quebec, who was just a monument of Quebec and Canadian literature. We did a fundraiser with Peter Zosky from CBC. We had a show every year by the Chester Drama Society. Stuff was produced by Deb Allen. We had CBC's Double Exposure with Bob Robertson and Linda Cullen. It went on and on. And I could always rely for technical expertise on Bob Elliott and Linda if you needed anything involved with dance or choreography. And they have been community resources for decades. And it's wonderful to see that. And they've certainly helped with the Playhouse and its development. I'm now happily retired on Digby Neck in a place called Sandy Cove, which has a winter population of about 52. I still sing with Dirty Dougie. Sometimes we do it remotely right now, but we're working on our second CD, and perhaps we can do like we did with the first volume and launch it at the Playhouse, which we did in 2015, and that was a wonderful evening. As I said earlier, I think the fondest wish for anybody who gets involved at the early stages of a project is that even after they've left it behind, they want to see it thrive and survive. And that's certainly what's happened with the Playhouse, and I'm delighted to see that happen.
This has been a marvelous evening, and we're going to bring it to an end. Sorry, but we're running out of music here. Thank you all for coming and making this so special. Thank you, Never Too Late, and thank you, Jackie. This is a song we've been singing for 40 years. I think you know it too. A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Shaboom, shaboom. Be-a-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Shaboom, shaboom. Be-a-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Shaboom, shaboom. Be-a-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Shaboom. Ba-dum, bum, bum. Life could be a dream. If I could take you up in paradise above. If you would tell me I'm the only one that you to love. Life could be a dream, sweetheart. Hello, hello again. Shaboom, here's hoping we'll meet again. Life could be a dream. If only all my precious plans would come true. Shaboom, if you will let me spend my whole life loving you. Life could be a dream.